Hey everyone, this is Akash and welcome to GTM and AI Operators Show. Every 2 weeks or so, I try to bring in different operators who are deep in the trenches around the go-to-market, implementing AI, using AI for different workflows. And I try to go as deep with them to understand how the world is evolving, how go-to-market is evolving, how building, shipping, services is changing, and how AI is reshaping. Today with us, I have a very close friend, Adi Patil. Adi, thank you for coming to the show.
Thanks.
Uh, Adi, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, again, thanks for having me. It is really fun, to be honest, because I'm someone who watches a lot of podcasts and love consuming content. So it would be good to be on the other side of the table. So yeah, so I began my career at Deloitte. Was there for 5 years, from 2012 to 17. Then joined BNI Milan for close to 2 years in Chennai. And then forayed into SaaS world. Chargebee was my introduction to SaaS world. I joined in 2018. Began doing pre-sales and then implementation, and then basically got 3 promotions in 3 years. I mean, right place, right time. And then was with Chargebee for almost 5 years, and then moved to Clazar where we met. And I've been there since then.
Adi is being very humble. On the side, he has a lot of AI hobby projects, which we'll obviously get into it. But yeah, Adi, welcome to the show and we'll get
Okay,
started.
thanks.
So Adi, you started your career at Deloitte and then moved to BNY Mellon. How were these technical roles? How did they help you shape into who you are today?
Began my career back in 2012. Was with Deloitte. Was with Deloitte for almost 5 years. And like I always tell, I was like a small fish in a big pond. I began with SharePoint development, was doing some custom website work for internal teams. In today's AI world, I think that team would not even exist, honestly. But then post that, we did some work for knowledge services where I would actually do some internal newsletters. And I eventually got to a point where I worked on a very interesting concept called a success stories. So our job was to actually figure out what other teams were doing and then document that story and then share with the wider Deloitte community and then help our knowledge services sell more services to
Okay.
other member firms. So it was fun because I'm an engineer by profession, but then this was a foray into something where I could actually exercise my writing skill. And also, we needed somebody who was technical enough to understand what's happening on the ground. Yeah. So 5 years into Deloitte, realized that there was other opportunities for me to explore. And when I was doing the success stories bit, I got foray into the world of pre-sales. It was new to me back then. I mean, this was even prior to the SaaS era and all that. And although I didn't know what exactly it was, but I understood what pre-sales as a function does. And then later, when I got an opportunity to go out, I had to figure out that I can't just be doing what I was doing at Deloitte. So there was this opportunity in Chennai from BNY Mellon. So they wanted somebody who did have the context and understanding of SharePoint, which I did, thankfully. But then they also wanted somebody to do that in the pre-sales context.
Okay.
And so obviously, whatever I could learn, I tried to convince the BNY interviewers that I knew what I was talking about. So they took a chance, and I went to BNY Mellon in Chennai. So that is when I entered the pre-sales world as close to customer as possible. There's a role called proposal coordinator,
Okay.
where these big companies will send RFPs, proposals.
Yeah, request for proposal.
So when you have a big company, somebody has to actually write that, coordinate that, get the right responses from different experts in the teams, and basically meet the deadline, right? So I was doing that. I was basically a proposal coordinator and also trying to automate that stuff with SharePoint because
Okay.
that is the
Okay.
tools that the NMN used. So again, this is a joke that I know we briefly spoke earlier also. It was like, I mean, I was not customer facing, but then I was like an anonymous Indian doing this role in the back end and helping our folks to work more to customers, right? So very interesting stuff, but I did that.
Yeah, there's a lot of abbreviations for AI. Like back when around the same time we used to say AI is additional intern.
Yes.
So basically anonymous Indian, additional intern. Good. Yeah. Adi, I noticed you were an OnDeck and OnDeck was a big thing back then. You were an OnDeck fellow. For those of you who don't know OnDeck, brought together some genuinely ambitious people together. How did OnDeck happen to you? What did you get out of it? And especially in 2026, what would you recommend people to consider OnDeck? Because there are so many other things in the world, but just your side of the story.
Yeah, I think back then, I'm like I said, OnDeck founder fellowship was really like really hyped up, and I used to follow the founder on Twitter and his Substack writing. So it was very inspiring to see that he was able to get a lot of these ambitious people together and like do like a, I mean, for lack of a better word, crash course where all of them get together, brainstorm, and then basically help them start up their companies. So it was almost, I mean, this began as a FOMO, where the world is going. So you might as well see if you can get your hands dirty. It began with the OnDeck founders, but then they kind of went into multiple domains.
Okay.
And one of the domains was writing.
Oh. Okay.
And back then, like I said, I was always somebody who loved writing. And I thought this was a good opportunity for me to apply and see if I can get hold of the writing community and then get some good feedback on the writing. I did apply, and then I mean, they had a course champion.
Okay.
Who would actually try the entire course. And this person reviewed the write-up examples, samples that I had shared, and then he was kind enough to accept me. And it was a 3-month program. I actually met a lot of enterprising Indians also through that, and all of us had a goal to write newsletters and articles, one per week.
Okay.
Then we would sit together every week and then basically brainstorm and review and give feedback to each other. And I got feedback from a very elderly woman from London in UK. And it was very, very fascinating because I used to write something very personal to me. And then
Okay.
you would have somebody in UK giving me feedback, and then all of us trying to improve and get better.
So she was part of the course?
She was part of
Okay.
the cohort, and it was crazy. But I think it was a 16 to 20 member cohort. I think back then, even now, I think all these programs give you a lot of access, which sometimes you don't get if you're not living in SF or all these hotspot cities. So I got access to that community. I got access to the writer community. I got access to the OnDeck fellowship itself. So I just loved being part of such program, and this was my foray.
No, I honestly, and like I was part of Entrepreneur First, which is a similar program.
Yeah.
I think for me, the thing is we were coming out of the COVID era. So I think, so that was also like a inflection point because I needed to get back. It was important. I think I got access to so many things, and just quickly, I think I posted about the first podcast. I shared it in my alumni group, and then suddenly people were like, "Hey, don't do this on LinkedIn. Go to Twitter." I like, oh, I was not expecting this. But the value of community, especially with ambitious, like-minded people, I think it's very
it's crazy value add.
It's like I keep telling people a lot, like it's just 3 months of your life. Just go and join any of these fellowship programs, whatever you are. You will come out saying that why didn't I do this earlier? That's the only thing that I think.
Yeah, and in fact, that gave me the confidence to also to apply to these fellowships that is spoke about Antler. The whole experience of applying and then trying to go through the application process and then do the interview with one of the VCs. I think it just helps you also understand where do you stand in the entrepreneurial thing, which was very helpful.
And it's like a lot of like people, like when we are in a job space, we are the highest performers. So we always feel very good about it. And it's a bubble. It's a good bubble, but it's a bubble. When I went to EF, everyone was like that. I had people on the technical side who had PhDs in the minest of thing. And now they are like, I had people who had patents. I had people who had strange YouTube following. A person from my batch was trying something on the video space, and he went and flew to Dubai to meet Nas Daily. Nas Daily, remember that?
I know Nas Daily.
Yeah. He just cold emailed Nas and just went and met, and it's just like, and he's the guy next to you, so it's just it raises your bar, it changes it stuff. It's like everyone was doing stuff like that, and a lot of these companies from the cohort are doing really well. A lot of them got into YC, so it just changes it changes your thinking, it raises the bar for you, whatever it happens. But I really recommend people to just explore this. It's just, I think it will be a very sweet 3 months for your life.
Absolutely.
Chargebee is a story I really want to go or spend some time on. It's obviously it's Chennai SaaS story, but it's also the India SaaS story. And you joined there very early. I think you were part of their 7 million, 200 million journey. Joined them at a very small scale. Implementation manager to director of implementation, multiple promotions you talked about. This is a great journey for you as a person. This is a great journey for Chargebee. What were the things that I think you did right, and also at the time Chargebee was doing right, which is the more of the India SaaS story that was happening, and you were at the right center of it?
Yeah. I think Chargebee is a very critical part of my career so far. So I'll tell you how it began. I was doing some pre-sales, but not customer facing. And Chargebee back then, it was in 18. It was growing, but they're not growing a lot. They're still finding the footing. I interviewed with them, and they actually decided to take a chance. They knew that I didn't have the experience, but they saw that the capability is there. I joined the pre-sales team and in Chargebee back in 2018. Was the, I believe, sixth or seventh member to join pre-sales. Overall, Chargebee back then was close to around 150, 200 people, not more than that. So began doing pre-sales, actual customer-facing role. Began with North American customers and best customers in the world. I'm sure most of you know this. This was something new I had forayed into, but it was always also fun, very challenging, working and trying to explain to customers how the product works, how it worked for them. But then, yeah, I think 1 year of pre-sales I did in North America and APAC. Again, two different regions altogether. I think I would probably point this to being right place, right time. And also, obviously, I did work hard. So my leadership did see the what I was bringing to the table. I went to my then boss and told him I do have an interest to actually team.
Okay.
If you give me an opportunity. And that's the thing with startups. You would just go and have this conversation, they'll actually consider. But then he actually gave me a new team altogether, which is the implementation team. So pre-sales was doing everything. Pre-sales was helping sales people win the deals.
Yeah.
They were also implementing.
The servicing part.
Both parts. Right?
Okay.
And it got to a point where the same team couldn't do it. So then we decided to kind of split that. I was just like 1 year, 2 months into the role. I was given that role, 6 people who we had hired for pre-sales.
Okay.
But then we moved them to implementation. That's when the big journey began. Honestly, implementation, I jumped into it. I had no clue what exactly it was. I had a lot of support in Chargebee for sure. And then we kind of made a lot of mistakes in the beginning. Like it would take close to 120 to 150 days to actually get customers live. I know this is bad, right? Because then they would question why am I paying you?
Yeah.
So it began like that, but then I had an incredible team, very sharp people. So all of us figured out together how to solve for this. And eventually we did well because that 130 days became close to 30 days. The team that began with 6, I think when I left the company in 2023, I only managed 60 plus people. And then the overall team was 100 plus. So it was crazy. I mean, what the team I started with 6 became 100 plus. Because the company grew incredibly. Like I joined 7 million when I left. Maybe it's not public information, but it is. They are making 100 million plus. So the journey was amazing. We doubled, tripled revenue every year. So from pre-sales consultant to implementation, then to implementation manager, then a senior manager, then a director. Yeah, I mean, crazy growth story. A lot of learning, a lot of fun.
I think it's the same when you're telling you went to a manager. Something different happened to me. So I was building something, and through a network I found a co-founder who was also angel investor, and I reached out to him for some conversation happened, and he came to me and said, "Don't know what demand gen is. You want to do this with me? I also don't know what I'm doing, but you want to do this?" I said, "Yeah, why not?" And then, like 2 years later, I was the head of demand gen. It's just like that. Just those options of like just keeping an open mind and just having those conversations.
I think this I always say because I mean I'm sure you also see having experienced both the corporate and the startup world. I always tweet this a lot. Startups can become very tough, exhilarating, and all of that. Can be very demanding also, but then the kind of growth that you get as an individual, even monetary terms, I think it's just. I mean, if I had to restart my career, I would have probably left Deloitte much earlier if I knew startups was like this.
It's you don't know that you have these skills in you. For a quarter, I was doing sales, like front sales. I have close to enterprise deals. I never knew I had sales in me. Sales in me, and I did it. And I was. It is a funny story. So there was a friend's wedding, and he's a sales guy. And I was there, and obviously it's time of the quarter, and the VP sales said, and I was like, I came from marketing, ops, engineering background, and I was like, I was very sad. He said, "Hey, sales may this happens. Some quarters are good, some quarters are bad." I think this doesn't make sense. I have 8 qualified opportunities. The math should math. We have a 16% rate. And then my engineering mind is saying that one of these 8 deals should have closed by now. The numbers are just this. But there was great fun when I did it because I got my first deal pretty fast. And my CEO then told me, everyone, and actually not CEO, a lot of people told me that the first deal is always luck. The second deal is the toughest as a sales guy. So I got the second deal as well, and it was like 3x ACV.
Nice.
It was, in today's rate, it would be like 30K, which is pretty good that you're doing good. Yeah. And I never got my third deal.
Oh, wow.
I had to prove that I could, it's not luck. So I got it, and I said that to myself that I am good. And then I was doing this 8 deals in pipeline, and these were all like Texas Instruments, National Instruments,
all the big ones.
enterprises, big enterprises. Yeah. And I'm like the time, all the maths is mathing, the ops guy is saying why this should have happened. And random things. My buyer went on maternity leave in one company. I could do nothing.
Things you can't control.
Yeah, but these are the experience that startups can give, that ever in your life you can, like, I could never imagine me doing enterprise sales. Like, I had this fascination of like that coffee and a blazer and those. During the same time, I went to campus recruitment. I did recruitment.
That's fun.
Yeah, it's fun. And then I realized a lot of things that I could really do, but at least now I'm happy that you could be good at a lot of things, but then marketing is where I invested more. Yeah. Marketing is where I invested more time and energy, and I started enjoying it more. So I think those are some of the things that only startups could like give you exposure to. On the follow-up question to Chargebee, I think you said Chargebee was doing really well and you were writing that way. What are some of the things that Chargebee was doing really? What are some of the strategic things that they were doing really well that gave them this kind of the growth? And it cannot be right place, right time to be.
Yeah, no, I think the biggest pluses Chargebee had was, I think the culture obviously it trickles down from the founders. I think that culture wise they had cracked it much earlier, and that's why if you even look at Chargebee now, there are a lot of people who have been there for decades, and are not moved out because just it's an amazing place to work at. That's why it was very difficult for me to make the decision to actually leave Chargebee.
Okay.
Because even when I had gone through the whole journey, I had more opportunities in Chargebee where they were trying to figure out how to fit Adi into the new scheme of things, right? So the culture is something they really cracked for sure. Second, I think there was a lot of onus on letting people make mistakes.
Okay.
And I know, Krish and Raman, who are quite famous in the community, I always saw them letting people grow into their roles, making mistakes. They could have easily just stepped in and said, "This is not how you should do it."
Okay.
Maybe be more prescriptive, which some founders tend to do. Again, there's no right or wrong there. But at least in the case of Krish and Raman, they're always more like, "I have given this problem for Adi to solve. Let him give his 100% to it. And if he's going to make mistakes, if he's going to come and talk to me, we will figure it out together. But I'm not going to tell Adi to go and do A, B, C, D, and just make him do what I want him to do." Probably the word I'm looking for is the ownership, which is now, I'm sure, a fancy word that all of us use. But the ownership for people to drive the results, I think that was crazy.
But there is a risk. You are in a customer facing role. If you do something, whatever you are thinking right, and there has been a way, not the right way, but there is a pre-existing way of doing it, which is getting certain results, and you are maybe trying to do it your way, which is again no right or wrong, but there is a certain risk of a customer churning or of a customer escalation. That in reality, at that scale,
that is the fun part, no? Because I remember we as a team and individually also we did a lot of blunders in the beginning. But it was always taken as a learned opportunity. And then when we used to discuss with founders or in leadership meetings, they would always want to look at and see, okay, how can we make sure we don't repeat this?
okay,
And how can we actually learn from it? But I had never experienced a opportunity where they probably blamed it on us. We were not really questioned for making a mistake. I think it would be questioned for why have we not learned from it? Which is, intellectually it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
But then to practice it was actually, I could see it on the ground.
Hey, this has been amazing. You joined Clazar. I was obviously in a lot of early stage startup, but you've seen the scale of Chargebee, and you joined Clazar back in 2024. It's a small US based company, very different sector, very different scale. Why Clazar? Why a different new category, a new space, and a new type of company, smaller scale?
I think it was a combination of personal reason and also how exciting Clazar is in terms of what market they're in. I think it's already 5 years in Chargebee, and what I really loved was setting up the team, growing the team from 60 to 100. But then once that growth happened and we were now dealing with enterprise customers, the kind of skill set you would need is very different from what you would need in 0 to 1. And I'm sure you'll also appreciate this. Like, there is a lot of joy in doing 0 to 1 work where you can just roll up your sleeves, be an owner, and be accountable for all these tough decisions that you take. I could have definitely sat there and learned and all that, but I realized I would not really enjoy and thrive. So even in Chargebee, we were already exploring what else could I be doing. And Krish, my CEO, was very kind enough and had a very long conversation trying to understand how to fit me in the new scheme of things. But then just then I was talking to Lalit, our friend at Clazar. What was really intriguing in Clazar was the breadth of work that I would get to do. Implementation obviously was the problem they wanted to solve, but then they also thought of support as a adjacent team that this person could own. So that was interesting because I had seen in Chargebee how support was a different role, different leader, and not really work closely with implementations. But for me, the challenge was okay, I can probably now handle the breadth of the work and handle more of the post sales org together. That was intriguing. And I had some very good conversations with Ayush, Tonal, and the founders of Clazar. And the people seemed good, the opportunity seemed good. And what also intrigued me was that it was very niche, very early. Yeah. Like cloud marketplaces, even today, it's today, niche, even today it's early, right? But then same thing, I thought if SaaS was a wave, maybe this is also something that could become huge. And that's why, and timing was great. And then I joined.
Yeah, I think I now get your perspective. And obviously, you had a 60-member team and that over a period of like 3 years. So, yeah. Yeah. So, at Clazar, you own implementations, you own support, and now you own customer success. These functions is like their post sales, or they are very different. They have different capabilities, different outcomes. But a lot of times it's looked at saying maybe you could share some light on how these each functions are and how they should operate. The reason I'm asking you is this: like a lot of founders who would be listening when they're thinking about their post sales, or there's a lot of noise, but someone who has done implementations, customer success, support, everything, how first throw light on the function and how should founders look at their post sales?
Yeah, I think it's very interesting because my opinions of it also changed, has also grown. Because back in Chargebee, it was pure play implementation. We had pure play pre-sales, we had pure play support, and everything was basically different. They didn't necessarily work together very well. But here, when I came, so implementation and support, they are truly adjacent in terms of what skill set you need. I think in today's SaaS world, people who tend to get hired in implementation and support are the ones who are techno-functional, but other part is they're also customer-facing, where they're comfortable in talking to customers. They have that mindset of the hospitality to customers. So we need a combination of these two. I mean, it cannot be pure play hospitality, cannot be pure play technical. When I got an opportunity in Clazar to pick up success, and honestly, I had no experience of doing it. I had an outsider view of what success means. And then I knew success handles NRR, renewals, expansions, and all that. But in my experience of working in Clazar and with my founders and trying to basically solve this problem, one thing we realize is looking at this from a customer lens. And I'm sure most of us are aware of this concept where the end customer doesn't necessarily care about your org chart, like where do you belong, right? Like, do you belong in pre-sales, implementation? So then the same concept of trying to just provide one face who can be a go-to person for everything in your product, we tried to replicate that, at least in the initial Quasar days. But we were struggling because we were still having the same structure of a older SaaS world where the CS team will be separate and implementation and support team will be separate. So we still were seeing the same problems of structuring how do we go to customers, right? Because the KPIs also differ. For an implementation back then, it was like, okay, I'll get my customer live, I'll get them set up, but my job is done. I don't care about what happens next. Support is also very KPI driven. My KPI is actually solve it quickly and without burdening my engineering team. Success KPI is I want long-term growth of this person, customer. I want him to renew. I want him to expand. So what we have realized, and again, there's a natural progression for all our companies that what we're doing, is how do we elevate and then now think from a customer outcome lens. And this is where probably the AI comes into the mix because AI is now forcing us to do it. It's not like organically also would have eventually gotten to that point. But AI is now making us question how can we think in the customer outcome lens and not from an individual KPI lens. In the KPI lens. So now we're in the process of doing this in Clazar also. And one of the first things we always do is we rename ourselves, right, as a team. So instead of having an implementation support and success, now we're calling ourselves customer outcome architects because the idea is we should be aligned to outcomes. As somebody who is in post sales, we're trying to architect, right, their outcomes. The process to actually absorb that mindset and practice that on a daily level is what we're going through right now. And AI makes it actually accelerates that whole process. So I'll tell you why, right? Today, I can push my import team to go beyond what they're thinking and say, okay, your job is not just to go and react to a ticket and solve. How can you now anticipate that this is the problem they'll probably get because they are at this stage of their journey with Clazar? How can you anticipate that? Proactively go and tell them you should take care of A, B, and C so that it's resolved, right? So then we're thinking more from an outcome lens, not from a ticket lens, from a support perspective. Similarly, same lens if we go with implementation. To move away from the mindset of I'll get them live, and then that's my job is done, somebody else will take over. No, we're trying to see if this certain person can actually make them transact on marketplace. Like setup is done.
Yeah, next step.
Next step, which is the tougher part, where we make them do the private offer, where they transact. And even after transact, are they now going back to and doing what they intended to do? So what we're trying to do is looking from a lens, customer outcome lens. We're trying to define what does the customer want to achieve. Maybe in marketplace, well, it's very simple. I want to
Get more
revenue, add marketplace as a GTM channel. But we are digging deeper. So this is where we are talking to customers. Everybody has their own idea of what do they want from the marketplace. First, discover their outcomes. What do they want?
what success means to them.
Yes, from outcome lens, and then map it back to how we can drive that through all the teams that we have. And instead of having like different pillars, think from a customer outcome lens.
Adi, you talked about how this post sales function is changing.
Yeah.
Let me ask about the other party, which is the customer itself. Like you have been serving customers for over a decade now. How is the customer behavior changing 2020 onwards, especially with now the SaaS is evolving, agentic AI, customers themselves using a lot of AI. But how does customer behavior change, particularly in this decade?
But what is happening from the customer lens? We've been having this conversation with customers where we are trying to understand how we can augment Clazar product with AI and how we can help them. What we're hearing from customers is it is expected now that you will make my job easier by adding AI capabilities in your product. It is an expectation. It has to actually lead to some meaningful addition to my job, right? It's like the efficiency gains also needs to come from a lens of I don't want to talk to 5 people in your team to get this done. I don't want to put in so many resources and engineers to make this work done. So one very fine-tuned example of our world is these marketplaces expect customers to do something called as a technical review of the product, FTR, right?
Yeah.
And nobody wants to prioritize that work because they have their own product to build.
Yeah, they have their own work.
So up until recently, we always had these partners who would come and use services and say, I will do it for you. You just give me access and I will do all of the work for you. That worked, but then it was still inefficient. But now we are having products that are doing the FTR, 90% of the work with the product using AI within 10 minutes. Now imagine if you're able to go to the customer and say, okay, you don't have to worry about all that. We will take care of it for you. You just focus on giving us the access. We will do the whole work for you. Now let's get that done. Let's move to co-sell. That's the next part. So I think from this vantage point, just want to call out, I think the expectation from customers is that we pass on these efficiencies of AI to them, reduce the time to value. Like everybody wants to start seeing that value from marketplace within 60 days or 30 days of joining.
Yeah.
And our job is not just making it live, making them live, making the first transaction. Our job now is translating to how do we actually get them to that value outcome as soon as possible.
Let me ask you this. Is the customer in today's world, does the customer expect valuable outcome bluntly? Now I have bought the product. I do not care how it should deliver value.
Yeah, I think it's still a transition. I don't think it's happening like it's not a switch that has happened. I think there's some customers are definitely more aggressive and rightfully demanding that, right? But I'll tell you from a customer success lens, when we go and have these renewal conversations, the value that product was giving them, that value perception also is changing. And for example, in Clazar's world, we may help them get listed, we help them make transactions. But now the customers are saying, as a channel, how can Clazar help me actually make channel successful? How can I get more opportunities from these marketplaces, right? How can I not have to hire more people to run this whole motion? How can Clazar do it for me? Well, I don't want to invest another person to learn the tool. That is where it is already moving towards, where if an agent or an AI can probably manage this and then put everything in automation and drive the actual outcome that we want, that is what is happening. It's slow, it's gradual, but I think we're definitely moving in the direction already.
Oh no, that's like I think consumer products are
Already there.
Because I was telling you for this, like, just for this podcast, and it's from a consumer lens, if I have to take 5 tools to do 5 different things, I really want to say fuck you to each and every one of them.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that.
Correct.
And I think that drives, because end of the day, the consumers of B2B are also individuals. Consumer products have raised the bar so
They
high.
have. They have.
Say so high. All of us were ChatGPT loyalists for years, and now like
Yeah,
everyone,
obsessed with Claude.
Claude, like left, right, and center, and he's
Yeah.
like, boss, you hallucinated. Fuck you. You did something bad. Fuck you. I found something better.
Yeah.
Fuck you. I found something cheaper. I need value. There is,
And the switching cost is very less now.
yeah,
People can just jump.
yeah. And I think because that, like, perception of value has changed
It has.
from a consumer product lens. Whatever you take, it is gonna come into the
Yeah, it's going to become a norm soon.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
for sure.
oh, you do not have this. It's like, how is, like, why? I don't need to know, like, if it is your problem, that problem.
I just want the
technical,
result.
roadmap, this, that. Like, you are my product for this. You need.
You have to solve it. Yeah, for sure.
So, Adi, this is my personal observation about customer success or post sales or team. I see a lot of Indian companies and India based founders or companies have very huge customer success teams, because obviously there's a lane cost. Relatively, I have seen this almost flipped. Like, the customer to human ratio in an India DNA company is very small.
Yeah. I think I'm saying back then when SaaS obviously was figuring this out together, I think a model that most companies followed, and actually it worked, was we would just go and hire these graduates from engineering colleges, and then we train them. I think obviously the cost angle is there. I mean, companies can afford to hire at scale and then align to customers. Having said that, I think that model also is being questioned now, rightfully so. But I think the model is now changing predominantly because in some cases what we saw, which is open for debate, where maybe a US somebody sitting in US as a CSM or an implementation person who is now empowered with AI can probably do a role of 3 Indians. And then that person has the advantage of being in the US and then has the same culture and language that the customers speak. So you could argue that we can just probably not rely on the Indian large team and just focus on the US plus agents. What I am seeing actually on the ground is at least in Clazar, since Clazar's language, I can tell you, we just have, including me, we have 7 people who are catering to 250 plus customers. It would have been unheard of in Chargebee's days. I have 3 people who are doing implementations for 200 plus. I have 2 people who are doing support for all 250 plus, and our support numbers are amazing. We have
Your CSAT was a public.
Yeah, public, and response time is less than 20 minutes for most verticals, right? And again, we are actually challenging ourselves to use AI to even make it better, but not at the cost of human support experience, right? So I think the nimbleness that smaller companies tend to get, and where we are also being challenged, do you really need people there, or do you need an AI or a process differentiator to actually make it easy for you, right? I think it will change, but it depends on the complexity of the product, which is a big thing, the market that you're living in. Maybe for enterprise customers, you do need people. So today we have also from some enterprise customers. I cannot think of employing AI with them because they'll probably need that hand-holding service.
Yeah, so that they would have so many other stakeholders.
Correct. So I think if you ask, going back to the question, it is changing. It will not look the same as it is. I think all of us are also now trying to figure out what is that new model with AI that's going to work. But I think what we're gravitating towards is, like I was saying in the previous answer, one person doing multiple roles, all the logistics, repeatable tasks being handled by agent. But we push the team to be more customer facing, drive more value, have more strategic conversations. Yeah, and then move away from the drudgery or the drudgery work of firefighting and just doing setup work, not the back office work, right? So I mean, I would love team to think that way. I know it's a mindset change, but I think that's what I would recommend them to.
A lot of noise about AI. There's models, different personas, there's different tools, there's rappers, there's so much. I just wanted to take a step back and like get perspective on to what is happening in the AI world. What are things that are available to people? What is valuable to who?
Yeah, I'll tell you from a perspective of somebody who is non-technical. They're not an engineer per se, but has some exposure to the technical world and products. It is truly a game changer. I think it is also incredibly useful to make our lives more productive. If you ask me, while the initial domain that has been solved or the attempt to solve is the coding part, this coding tends to be very deterministic. You need to have a logic, requirements gathering, and you know exactly what needs to be solved. You have languages, syntax that needs to be used. This has been claimed by the founders of OpenAI and Anthropic that this is the first domain that they wanted to solve. Coding, yeah, and then they'll probably move towards other ancillary domains like maybe design. It's already begun doing that, right? One big thing that I'm seeing, some of us are thinking it in a very wrong way. I still see some of us are using it as more like a assistant, giving some menial jobs to it, and then just be happy that it is kind of automating 10%, 20% of the work. But I think the way I look at it is obviously in some aspects smarter than us, and we just have to accept that. For example, take my work. I have to go on customer calls. I have to prep for them. I have to send like a summary of what is discussed. I have to keep following up. I have to make sure that as a customer you do ABC, entire checklist. I don't have to really do all of that now, and AI can take care of all the logistics work in the backend, and I can just focus on being in front of the customer and actually having high leverage conversations. That is what I have been doing in the last few months. But the challenge that now my founder also is pushing me to do is, can you rethink the entire process from being an AI native individual? So today, if I have to start the implementation from scratch for a customer of Clazar, how do I use AI to do that instead of just it augmenting our current process? So that is a mindset change we're still learning to do.
I think we were discussing this when we met at Truffle. This is my way to look at it. There are general purpose AI, which is your Claude, ChatGPT, Gemini, where you could give them simple automations or simple work, whatever you want to do then. Then there are specific use cases AI, like I think which is Codex, Claude Code, Look Codex, which is for a coding purpose. And obviously you have specific like AI tools that I use for video generation, video editing. There are different people. So one persona of mine is the generalist, where I would rather use AI to automate menial tasks, whether in a personal capacity or in a professional capacity. The second persona of mine is enhancing my professional capacity, which is the part that you said that from a coder. And obviously that's the part that AI is solved for very largely. Almost all code is now being written by AI. Content is now being written by AI. Video is now being generated by AI. Obviously there is someone at the end who's right. The third part is I look at it, which I think is a very big market, or you could say a segment, which is this giving power to non-tech people to develop, which is all of this is the vibe coding. And the last is obviously being an AI native function, being an AI native individual, being an AI native, like running a business from scratch. Is this something that I am looking at it correct? No, yeah, I think it's perfect, right? Because I'll take the last example that I shared. A generalist who is quite non-technical, it was very difficult for us to actually build internal tools without help of engineers. But today, because of what Claude makes it possible, Claude and ChatGPT, I think you could actually build specific purpose products for your own team, for your own company, and that'll actually work. Individual capacity, a hobby project as well. Hobby projects, I think that is where I use AI the most. I'll just give you an example, right? So I always had a problem. There's too many bookmarking tools, and then there's always an issue of you just saving links and forgetting. And for almost every tool, you need to also sign up, create an account, and do all of that. But I was able to create something called as ZenLink. It uses browser storage capacity. And if you want to just save a link, but you don't have an account or anything, just go to that page, save that link, it'll just stay there until unless you remove it. Okay. I mean, it was unthinkable for me to do this on my own without AI in the past, but I am able to do that. So I'm trying to just tinker and solve my own problems that I think I need to see in the world. Earlier, I would depend on actual companies and developers to do it. I am building them on my own now, which is the best part of this world. You implemented a lot of AI in the Clazar courses, or what are some of the projects that you have done, products that you have shipped, or whatever simple automations that you have been able to do using AI? Let's start from there. Yeah. We already use a tool called as Pylon, which is for support. And since most of our customers come talk to us through Slack, we basically built an agent which would actually solve these L1 questions, the easier questions on its own. And now we've been tracking how much it has been able to do. We began with 5%, 10%. Now we're close to 30%, where the agent is smart enough. It understands all the context. It has all the past data. It has the context of customer also.
So if a customer is probably not happy with Clazar for whatever reasons, it is able to also change the tone of the response. So there is this company called Klarna, which claimed that AI has made their support completely automated, and they fired more than 700 people who are doing support work. But then later realized after a few months that the quality of support has actually gone down, and the customers were complaining more because they are not getting the help that they require. There are some customers who always want a human to talk to, but now that is a model we're iterating where the AI can just kind of augment and help the customers with what they need immediately and kind of unblock them and then get somebody from the human support team to come and solve for it. So our goal still is to keep optimizing and increase that number of AI assisted to 50% or even more than that. And if we're able to do that, then the support team becomes more stronger and they can actually do more proactive work and not reactive work.
How did you go about? What was the tech stack?
So it was just the two support engineers we have and me. The first thing that we had to do was to create the knowledge bank for which we used Claude. It was easier because it went back and reviewed all the 2 years of Q&As that we had, and also internal Slack and Notion, and it was able to create a comprehensive like a context knowledge base. Second thing which I'm particularly proud about, what I was able to do is um, customer context lives in multiple places. It can be in your CRM HubSpot, it can be emails, calls, and even internal Slack conversations. If somebody in your company, if the CEO wants to understand what's happening with a particular customer, you always have to rely on an individual to come and tell them what is happening.
Consolidate.
They have to consolidate. So now what we have done, we have used Notion as our context layer.
Okay.
And then I've used Claude Skill to do one-time activity of rendering a complete context of a customer within the Notion page.
So every Notion page is every customer has its own
Notion page,
which is
and that has everything. So I gave it a structure. So you go and look at what they discuss in sales, who are the key personas, what are the outcomes they want to drive, what does the success mean to them, and then summary of calls, what happened in implementation, what happened in support, and all of that. Right? So it's a one-time activity that'll basically go through all of your tokens. It is a costly affair, but at least one time. So once that happens, now what we're doing, we have a page for everybody, every customer. Now we run a weekly context aggregator.
Okay, so every week it's getting updated.
It gets updated.
That's also on Claude.
That's also on Claude. So now everything goes and sits perfectly in Notion. We have actually created a Notion custom agent which can be invoked on Slack. So what my AM did today in the morning, he just went and asked that Notion agent, can you tell me this particular customer, have they done A, B, and C process? And then Notion agent is able to pull up all the data from that one particular page and then retrieve and then give the answer what he's looking for without having to rely on any human being.
So this Notion agent was a Notion native service.
Notion also came up with custom agents. It was in beta for a while. They made it live last week. That agent is a native Notion custom agent.
What else? I saw a post from your Twitter about some hackathon, and then you asked.
Oh, that was crazy. Hackathon primarily is for engineers, but I think I just wanted to see if I could probably give it a shot. I didn't have a technical AI solution or product idea in mind, and I didn't know if I could actually do this. So I was almost about to back out. But then I spent like 3 to 4 hours that day. And very simple idea. How do you capture the values or the culture that people are practicing in a company, and map that to the values that a company wants you to follow? Since most of us do work on Slack or in Slack, you could actually extract a lot of information from there. I created a pulse. It's like a pulse survey. It would go and look at all the channels which I give permission to. It will see what are the conversations happening, what is the energy level, what are the values people are practicing. Then it'll give the aggregate of the energy, the values people are practicing, who is practicing, and number of what is the energy right across the board. I was able to do this with ChatGPT, and it worked. And I want to add a point here. A couple of days back, one of the engineers, he was able to one-shot this within 5 minutes. So I spent 4 hours on ChatGPT to come up with Pulse Slack app, and he was able to one-shot it with the internal AI solution they have built.
The more value is that engineers, like that's the entire infrastructure of businesses. They are obviously building the product that drives is revenue. Then they would never ever go ahead and pick it. So two things I think it has solved which tie back. One, an engineer can do this in 5 minutes. And second, even if the engineer doesn't or can't or is not doing, you still have the powers and the power of choice to do it in 4 hours.
The capability is there.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
Any other interesting project that you did?
I think what is happening, I don't have to spend too much time on doing proactive reviews. So whatever reviews I need to do, like identifying which customers are a potential churn, which customers are potentially not talking to us, what's happening. In earlier world, somebody has to go and review it every day and then figure out. But now I could just tell AI, I guess create a skill, Claude Skill. These are the things I wanted to look at. Create a rule engine. It will go and look at that. It will run every week. It will lay out like these are the customers I should go and talk to.
How does that work? What uses what to do what?
We used Claude Skill. I was not using Claude Core back then. I was using Claude Cowork. Anthropic has a very good skill doc which helps explain what are the framework, how to create a skill. It's called progressive disclosure, and then how to use YAML in the beginning. So it's pretty. It's a one-time great activity. So I was able to use that and create a skill which would go and look at all the tools connected to Clazar. I look at what are the customer touch points that they have, and then also prioritize. Like if they've not had a call, have they at least done some tickets with us? How many times have they logged into Clazar? So look at all of these aspects and then prioritize which aspects need to be looked at. Then identify this customer has not had a touch point with you as a CSM for last 20 plus days. You need to go and have this conversation. And then the next part is which the team actually did pretty well. What do you go and tell them? Like ideally, it can be a generic message. Oh, what's happening? But because all the context now lives in Notion, now this agent can go and look at the whole context and send a hyper personalized message to the customer, which is very contextualized to their understanding or where they are, which is actually giving the result.
Right. So the part that you just talk about Claude Skill, we'll link the document in the description. But can you share a little bit more of that? What is Claude Skill?
It's a new framework these companies have brought in. It's a set of process doc which you tell the AI to follow a set of instructions every time you run a job. So if you prompt, it's like always you have to basically start from scratch and tell it what you want to do. And skill, what happens is you give all the context. You tell there's the initial part of the body, is the what you tell what exactly is supposed to be doing. Then there's a body which is to tell exactly who you are, what you need to be doing. These are the steps you need to take, A, B, and C. And then at the end, you give all the related links which are relevant for the agent to pick up or the AI to pick up. Earlier, when you would just write a prompt, you would dump everything. I'm sure all of you also tried.
This.
Yeah, I would say you are a marketing specialist and you'll dump everything. What ended happening is it would eat up the context immediately, and then it would not have enough tokens to actually do the reasoning work, which is a key part of AI. And extraction work is not older model can do, but the reasoning work is where the actual value comes out, right? In this case, what happens, because if you configure the skill in this specific way, the AI is able to use tokens for reasoning. It can pick up the right context from the doc and the right time. And the best part is you don't even have to learn this now because Claude now has something called a skill generator. So if you go to Claude, just start with a /skill generator and tell it what needs to be done. It'll actually build with you with all this framework in mind.
So there are so many models. There is Gemini, there is GPT, Claude, Llama, Grok. Like as an individual, whether within an organization or in a personal capacity, does it matter to me what models is coming out? Should I keep an eye on it? Let's say I'm not an LLM engineer. I am using certain products that are built on top of these models to do a particular task, whether in a personal capacity or in a professional capacity. But do these models matter to me? And like, what's your thought on that?
Yeah, I think to a large extent, the latest models are more from a perspective of doing some complex research work, complex mathematical problems that needs to be solved, or very complex work, right? I think for our day-to-day, both professional and personal, even if you want to go and work with the models, this one or two versions prior, the latest one, they should actually work seamlessly. So the way I look at it is, all the grunt work that needs to be done, like extraction, going and looking at tools and getting the data, can be done by older models. Like in Claude's case, you can just use Haiku to do all that. But if you need a thinking partner, if you need AI to actually help you solve something which is actually difficult to solve, then you should go with the latest ones. But then there obviously eat more tokens for sure. But each model has its own advantages, and every other week, if Claude comes up with 4.6, then
4.6,
and then ChatGPT comes with 5.4, the benchmarks are keep changing, keep evolving, keep getting better. For you to do your professional and personal work, I think just sticking to the one prior version is totally fine.
So this is where my head is. Like for a very long time, Perplexity ruled research. Then OpenAI made very significant investment. Then GPT was everyone's bread and butter. And now Claude came along and Gemini again comes and goes, good for image. How does a normal non-technical person or maybe a techno-functional person keep up with all of this? Like there are data, there are benchmarks, there's so much noise.
Yeah.
How do I like? Should I actually start reading research notes when they release?
No, I think what I think. See, I think it's a non-negotiable thing for you to. You definitely have to know what's there on the
Okay.
market. I think there's no way to say I just use one model and I just use it for all my work, right? Because then you're missing out on actual progress that's happening in the AI world for sure. But having said that, I think you need to figure out what model works for your work, your use case. I'll tell you an example, right? Back when I was in Chargebee, we have to always keep track of utilizations. How much of time we have spent with customer, how utilized we are and all that. Now in Clazar, when I had to do this, I just used Claude Opus. I gave it all the context. I told exactly what output I'm looking for. And I basically fine-tuned what data we collect from our individuals. And then Claude was able to do this within less than 2 to 3 hours. And now I'm doing it on a weekly basis. But for me, that model really worked because it was able to reason and figure out what I'm asking it to do. So for me, that is perfect. But I think there's a lot of consensus that for writing, AI creates a lot of slop in writing. I mean, it can be soulless also at times. So what I would recommend, what you do is you should ask AI to identify and map your voice. Like I have done, I've asked Claude to create like a voice DNA of my writing, and then keep that context wherever you go. Go to ChatGPT, go to Claude, wherever.
So I did that. I had my thing framework in ChatGPT, and when I migrated to Claude, they just told.
Perfect. So you know that, right? So I think the context layer that needs to be your own personal thing.
Yeah.
But you need to be flexible to use multiple models because there are new models which can do a lot more things.
I'll get to your individual projects, but one of the most interesting projects that I saw was you used OpenClaw and built something. Can you share what was the use case? How did you go about it?
Yeah. I spend an awful amount of time on Twitter, so it's where all the hype also gets created.
Yeah.
And OpenClaw, when it became a hype in the first week, I actually was on the hype train, and I did try to install, but it was too technical, and by design it was too technical. The maker did not want non-technical people to actually execute it, so I just tried for an hour on a Saturday, and then I stopped. But then a couple of weeks went by, and then it became a rage. People were buying Mac Minis to do all of that.
My new stand up with Mac Minis.
Yeah. So it's crazy how it became. Then I think what happened for people like me who are not technical, they created managed services layer. So all these companies like KimiClaw, they made a easy to create OpenClaw agent for yourself, where you just have to pay them and then set up, and then it will be up and running. So I want to see how exactly it works. So I used KimiClaw for the first month. For 2 weeks, I got a taste of what exactly it is. It's basically like a personal agent that you can chat with on Telegram or WhatsApp, and depends on what you give access to. It can be as powerful as anything, right? So I tried with KimiClaw for 2 weeks. It was intriguing.
Dumb question. What is the USP of OpenClaw over Claude or ChatGPT?
So Claude and ChatGPT and all these, they have an app layer or they have a coding layer. You need to give them access. You need to basically talk to them and in that context. But it doesn't have access to your own system. It doesn't run locally. It basically is on cloud or data center. In OpenClaud's case, it's like they've rethought about how will this whole AI model work for personal agents, for individual personal lives. Right? So I have installed it on my own Mac, older Mac, and I've given it access to few folders. And in that folders, I've given files. Now what I'm doing, asking it to do is, I can just on Telegram, ask it, this is my last month's expenses.
Okay.
Can you tell me how much did I spend on groceries? What can I do to actually optimize for it? And then save my money a bit. It actually told me that instead of paying the way you're paying, because you have a credit card, you can probably buy vouchers elsewhere and do it. I knew about it, but then again didn't execute it.
So structurally, your interface is either WhatsApp or Telegram rather than the chat with. The memory is the access to what you give.
What you give.
And then it's your system, your thought. It's not everything on the internet.
Correct. Local. Correct. That is a key difference.
That is what OpenClaw is. So this is a little personal. What's your view on Sarvam, their core capabilities? What are some of the things that as a neutral AI enthusiast, you are happy that they're like as a product, what do you think them? And then again, as an Indian, what's your view?
No, I think I'm sure you know this, but I think few years back when Sam Altman had come to India, and then there was a industry forum. One of the VCs that asked, Sequoia VCs that asked the question that should India try to build generative models? I think his answer was you could try, but I would not recommend you do it because it's very difficult to do. And I think some of these Indian patriots took it upon as a insult to kind of address, which I think also is brave. Nobody was expecting Saram to do what they did, and I think there was some debate that if whatever they built was just an incremental development of what other companies have done, like there was some section of society was saying this is probably like a deep seek moment of India, but then the other debate was no, it is only incremental progress. But irrespective, right? I mean, if you see from an outside lens, the fact that there is somebody in the country who is ambitious enough and is wanting to build a model from scratch, which is more catering to the Indian regional context and languages, I think it is incredibly commendable. And I think for me, the interesting part is they know where they're competing. They know that we need to build an AI for India, not like a general purpose AI, which is across the board. And I did see their recent product launches. I think they've done some incredible amount of work to try and see how this can actually go and work for enterprises in India. Credible in terms of how they're positioning it to be used within the enterprise context, and very localized to Indian regional nuances. So I think the play is amazing, and I personally tried their dubbing AI. I just gave it some random regional English content. I asked it to convert to Kannada, which is my mother tongue. It was able to do a very, very decent job, and I shared that with my mother, and she couldn't tell the difference if it was AI or an actual person speaking in Kannada. So they have open sourced their recent couple of parameters models. So they have the Sarvam app. I think it's called something else, Indus or something. It's very decent. Sarvam will have better reach because they will reach
Also, like better use cases because not all use cases are like
coding or
yeah. I think there is a Bharat which operates. There are so many
India's
smaller problems that these models could solve, which may not be as enterprisey, as sexy as they need,
True.
and not maybe as white collar or for boardrooms and
Correct.
DC offices, but there is a huge use case for these kind of elements.
In fact, say that Sarvam had one of the videos where they were showing how on feature phones the farmers can use AI to get help with their crop in particular seasons. So it's very nuanced, very specific, and solving a very local problem, which I don't think OpenAI and Claude will care
Obviously,
about.
I don't think that is what they like. That's not their vision.
Correct. The scope, the use case and scope is amazing here.
They've been building a lot of things on the side. The things that I could gather from your there's some super memory, there's Melbo, there's Fold, there's ZenLink. These are all very different problems. I spent some time understanding these products, but maybe you can talk about what each of these products do. What was the problem that you're trying to solve? Because these are all hobby projects. What infrastructure that you used and how did you go?
Melbo, the idea, I still think the idea is great. Where in the AI world, all of us need to become AI native. All of us need to show proof of work that we are doing what we are claiming to do. And then it will become a big thing because when people start hiring, that will become a skill set.
Yeah.
I mean, you just can't go and tell I am AI native.
Yeah.
Somebody has to show proof of work, right? That is what Melbo is solving for, where you can talk about how you do AI, how you use AI, what are the workflows you have automated, what are the tools that you use, and what have you done, right? I built that, and I was able to build very quickly. So I used Cloud Code for all the coding. I gave it the prompt. I told exactly what I'm looking for. I made the V1 using Cloud Code. Then I used the Versal app. Versal is basically to launch or deploy your product. As you push the code to GitHub, and GitHub goes to Versal. So as a non-technical person, you could just manage everything. It's very straightforward, to be honest. The only thing that you would need to pay is the domain. But apart from that, everything is all the free tiers of these products, like Versal, and then you have Superbase for the DB layer. The initial versions are more than enough for you to build everything. But what I've realized, and I spent maybe a couple of weeks on that, I got close to 50 users, and some of them built their profile, like what the intention was. But now for me to actually grow that, I need to crack distribution. And that is your area of expertise. I believe we can create as many hobby projects as we can, but we will not be able to see real money unless you get it in the hands of people. I think that is going to be a key blocker for people like us. That is where probably you come in and you can probably see how the white coders can probably even crack distribution.
Interestingly, see, this is the part. You came from a very core technical, you were closer to the engineering, you were able to use code. I think distribution also has been democratized. On the building side of the world, everyone is building left, right, and center. There is obviously all the jokes that I say that the LinkedIn is full of these, that SDR teams have been replaced, your Mac minis and this framework, this, that. There's a lot of noise. But if you just simply think about it and you have a sparring partner as powerful as Claude or whatever. But if you think about it, you have a basic fundamental problem that, hey, I have built something, I need to get more users. It's a simple, again, a logical problem. Let's take the example of Melbo. I need people who are AI enthusiasts who need to. So basically, I am trying to create a database, even with or without AI. That's how you solve it. We pitch this product to people, see, understand my pricing, and then get these people to use. That is the pre-sale cycle.
Correct.
Let's start with the first problem. There, you ask Claude that this is the kind of people I'm looking for, which is the best database. Maybe Clay could be the one of that. I think Clay, Apollo can solve it.
These customers.
We are using Clay and Clay's AI that, hey, I need people who are based out of this geography. This is their range. This is the kind of designations that we use. And you don't have to put these filters. You can just write their AI, whether it's Clay, Apollo's, or whatever. It will give you the filter of these things. Then they have those kinds of automations that you have already done. But then the context that, hey, now I've built this product. I need to reach out. So what do I need for them? Either I need to add them to my LinkedIn, which is again a simple AI automation, or I need to send them an email, which is again a
outbound
solve problem. Get there is create a personalized image. It's just the context of this building for you came very naturally. Distribution for me came very naturally. You have a sparring partner to discuss pricing. You have a sparring partner. AI in all cases. You have a sequencer. All of this is solved.
Correct.
Very simply, it's the same infrastructure that is solving yours.
It's also solving.
Your Supabase is my Clay and your Vercel is my instantly automation. Adil, this is the topic that we both enjoy. AI is changing a lot of things, how we build, how we operate, how we service, how we work, how we hire. I think more culturally, it's changing something very fundamentally about the inherent value of the word value. That what does value mean now in today's world? One of the things that you and I very easily agree upon, AI is going to kill mediocrity. The value, the expectation has changed. What's your general opinion on that? The gap is going to get bigger. How? That's what I am thinking. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it will definitely pull people to better efficiency, to basically become better versions of themselves. The ones who ignore, and I think they will probably find it difficult. I don't think we have a choice to ignore, to be honest. Today, I think all of us need to upskill. All of us need to up level to this thing. And I think mediocrity, there's no scope for it anymore, unfortunately. Maybe you could have probably passed along and then do a half-hearted job and then be okay with it. But now because AI is there, it can actually get you to perform at much better levels. So everybody will be expecting that already. So there's no way escaping it, honestly. You have to upskill. If you ignore, I think you find difficult, especially to survive and thrive in the world.
So the way I think about it, and across any function at any org, is as simple as that. If you were delivering at 8 on 10, which is a decent enough, then the best person was all killing themselves and were delivering on a 10 on 10, the gap was low. So the way I think the gap is changing two parts. The person who was earlier killing it and was developing 10 on 10, that is going to be 15 because they are going to be upskilling themselves and taking it to 15. And what is happening in the lower end of the spectrum is that AI in itself has its own basic standards that with just an AI can
automatically more than better.
4 on 10. So the spectrum is now moved from 4 to 15 and you are still at 8.
That's actually a very good way of putting it because, like you said, the ones who are already killing it, they're able to make themselves more productive.
Yeah.
Which is probably increasing the gap.
Yeah.
So I think all of us have to strive to be that person.
If the 8 doesn't become 12, then you are again not balancing out on the same ratio.
Correct. And I think it's happening in the industry already. I think all companies are trying to become more efficient, and all of them are trying to see if the people have the AI native capabilities, and do they have the growth mindset.
Everyone's calling you the Death of SaaS. What's your thought? You definitely are speaking to more connected. You have more deep. But what's your thought on the so-called Death of SaaS?
Based on what I'm reading and what I'm seeing on the ground, industry is going through a transformation. It's probably a change. It could also be called a rebirth or something. I don't think it's dying because people still want software. Nobody is going to vibe code their CRM and finance applications from scratch. So, but then having said that, the SaaS definitely is going through a transformation, especially with respect to pricing. No customer is going to pay you 100K and then be okay with just getting a product which will do A, B, and C. Now, people who are paying 100K will want you to actually solve actual outcomes that are driving the reason why they have bought your software.
Yeah. So I think it ties back to the way the customer behavior has changed. Individuals who are in part of the buying process, the human aspect of it, their expectation has changed. So the way you operate has to change.
Has to change.
That is how you sold, how you service, how you price, how you deliver outcome, how you all of that has to change.
Has to change.
In my personal opinion, in some of them could die depending on where the market is. But I don't think anyone is going to churn their HubSpot or Salesforce if HubSpot or Salesforce change the way they do things. They will be very happy that HubSpot and Salesforce just are now a new age AI company and the way they operate.
Yeah, correct.
I have one question, and I know you are in a rush. I'm a non-technical person who wants to build something using AI. How should I approach it?
Key aspect is, if you ask me, judgment and the design. If you always want to solve a problem, you will want to have an opinion about how it should look in the world. How do I want to experience the product? I think you need to become very good at articulating that. You need to articulate what do you want, and maybe have a thinking partner with an AI or with individuals across the board, right? And it is very important. You need to tell the AI what output you're looking for, and how you want to iterate to getting at that. The grunt work is taken care by the AI. But where you should spend maximum amount of time is to define the problem and articulate how you want to, what is the design you're expecting as an outcome of the whole thing. That's where I think the key difference is, and I've been working with other people also. When I was training a sales rep other day about how to use Cloud Code, I realized that one of the key aspects which was missing was he was good at prompting it, but he expected the AI to figure out the solution out of thin air. If you don't tell the AI what you're looking for, what is the output you're looking for, it will never give you a good product. That's how I look at it, and it's actually worked for me for sure.
Adi, I know you are an Arsenal fan. They are flying high. How does it feel? Any words for fellow Arsenal?
Yeah, I think this year the pressure is too much. I know they are active in all 4 competitions and they can actually win the quadruple. That's what, fingers crossed. But irrespective, I just want them to win at least the EPL and Champions League. There are a lot of haters of this club, so I really want them to win this year because it's been a long time coming.
Hey folks, this is Adi Patil. This is Akash. Thank you for staying so that until the end. GTM and AI operators. Hope you like the content. If you know someone who you think we should feature on the show, please drop their name in the comment. I'll take care of it. But again, Adi, thank you.
Thanks, Akash. Thanks for having me.
It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for having me.
Take care, folks. See you later.
Thank you. Bye bye.